In the previous episode of the Book of Enoch, we explored the first division that Enoch makes between the fates of the righteous and the sinners. In that discussion, we learned that the righteous are promised blessings, while the sinners are cursed to suffer. Among the damned, we find the Watchers, angels who, as Enoch tells us, will quake in fear and be seized to the ends of the earth. In today's episode, we continue through the Book of Enoch, specifically chapters 6 to 8, which provide vivid details about the Watchers, who they were, what they wanted, and most importantly, how they corrupted mankind. The era of temptation. The narrative begins by setting the stage for the descent of the Watchers. The world was in a time of great population growth, with humanity seemingly on an upward trajectory. As more lives were born, the daughters of men were described as both beautiful and innocent, possessing not only physical beauty, but also purity of spirit. This was a time when sin had not yet proliferated to the extent that it would in the future. It was a peaceful time until the Watchers set their sights on the women of earth. The temptation to sin, however, is not confined to humans. We learn that even the angels, divine beings, can be swayed by sin. The Watchers, angels appointed by God to watch over humanity, were meant to observe without interference. Yet, in the face of temptation, they made the grave mistake of acting on their desires. The Book of Enoch tells us, "And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children." This passage reveals an intriguing idea. Temptation affects not only humans, but also celestial beings. The Watchers were not only capable of conceiving plans and desires, but they could also produce offspring with human women, something not typically depicted in the Bible. Their desire was not purely for beauty, but also for the ability to father children. This reveals a shared urge between divine creatures and mortals. The innate need to procreate and extend one's bloodline, a value deeply important to humans of that time. The leadership of Semjaza. As the Watchers discuss their plans, we are introduced to their leader, Semjaza. While Semjaza initially hesitates, fearing that he alone would bear the consequences of the great sin, his words reveal much about his character. He expresses concern that the other angels will not join him in this rebellion, and that he will be left to face God's wrath alone. There are two ways to interpret this statement. First, Semjaza could be seen as a reluctant leader, afraid of the repercussions and the sin that would follow. He is mindful of his role and fears the punishment that would come from God. On the other hand, Semjaza's words might suggest that he is already complicit, perhaps even acting as an instigator. He implies that only he is brave enough to act, and his challenge could be seen as goading the other angels into joining him, calling them cowardly for not partaking in the sin. Despite his initial hesitation, Semjaza and the other Watchers swear an oath together to bind themselves by mutual agreement to their sinful plan. Their pact is made on Mount Hermon, a place they name after their vow. It is on this mountain that the Watchers, 200 angels in total, descend from the heavens to act upon their desires. The names of the leaders and chiefs of the Watchers are provided, although the specifics of their names differ in various translations of the Book of Enoch. The descent to earth. With their oath taken, the Watchers descend to earth, each choosing a mortal woman to take as his wife. The text states, "And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one." The angels then begin to defile themselves with the women, implying that they engaged in illicit and immoral acts. Interestingly, the Watchers do not return to heaven after their descent. Instead, They remain on earth, teaching the women they took as wives various forbidden practices. They teach them charms, enchantments, the cutting of roots, and the use of plants. This reveals that the corruption of mankind was not limited to physical acts, but extended to the imparting of forbidden knowledge, knowledge that God never intended for humans to possess. The teachings of the Watchers are seen as a means of defiling mankind's innocence. Through magic, enchantments, and sorcery, the Watchers introduce mankind to dark and dangerous practices. The knowledge they imparted would have long-lasting consequences for the earth, and its inhabitants would soon face even greater turmoil. The birth of the Nephilim. As the women of earth conceive children with the Watchers, the consequences of their sin become apparent. The text tells us that the children born of these unions were not ordinary humans, but giants, known as the Nephilim. These giants were enormous, described as being 3,000 ells tall. Their size was matched only by their hunger, as they consumed all the resources of mankind. When the resources ran out, the Nephilim turned against humanity itself, devouring the very people who had once fed them. The Nephilim's insatiable appetite led to devastation. Mankind could not sustain them, and so the giants began to turn on their human creators. The resulting chaos was not limited to humans alone. The Nephilim also began to attack the animals, birds, and fish, feeding on them as well. In response, the earth itself laid accusation against the Watchers, condemning them for their actions. The role of Azazel. Among the Watchers, one angel stands out, Azazel. While not the leader of the group, Azazel played a pivotal role in the corruption of mankind. He is credited with teaching humans how to craft weapons, swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He also introduced mankind to the art of working with metals and creating ornaments, bracelets, and costly stones. Azazel's teachings had a far more direct impact on humanity's ability to wage war and bring suffering to one another. In contrast to the other Watchers, who imparted knowledge related to magic and the natural world, Azazel's teachings were destructive. He taught mankind how to kill and harm one another, instilling in them a desire for conflict and warfare. His teachings led to the creation of weapons that would be used for violence, bringing pain and suffering to the world. This stands in stark contrast to the seemingly harmless knowledge of magic and astrology that the other Watchers imparted. Azazel's actions were condemned by the Archangel Raphael, who pursued him with great wrath. His role in corrupting mankind, particularly through the introduction of warfare, made him one of the most despised of the Watchers. Unlike the other angels who contributed to mankind's corruption in subtler ways, Azazel's teachings were directly linked to death and destruction, the corruption of mankind. As the Watchers continued their descent into sin, the corruption of mankind deepened. The knowledge imparted to humanity by the Watchers led to widespread godlessness. People began to commit fornication, become corrupt in all their ways, and stray from the righteous path. The Book of Enoch lists the specific Watchers who taught various forms of forbidden knowledge, such as astrology, the course of the moon, and the signs of the earth. These teachings gave mankind a sense of independence from God and sparked an insatiable thirst for knowledge that ultimately led them away from salvation. While these teachings might seem innocent on the surface, the Book of Enoch suggests that they were not part of God's plan for humanity. The Watchers had stepped beyond their bounds and, in doing so, had angered God. The result of their actions was a world in turmoil, with mankind now armed with knowledge and weapons that would only lead to further suffering. The consequences of the Watchers' actions. As the Nephilim wreaked havoc upon the earth, humanity was left to bear the consequences of the Watchers' sins. The giants consumed everything in their path, from animals to humans, and the earth itself began to cry out against the lawlessness of the Watchers. The devastation caused by the Nephilim was so great that it reached the heavens, and the cries of the suffering people ascended to God. The Watchers had corrupted mankind and unleashed creatures of unimaginable power upon the world. Their actions led to the near destruction of humanity, and the earth itself seemed to condemn them for the chaos they had caused. The stage was now set for God's response to the sin of the Watchers and the consequences they would face for their rebellion.
If you found this video enjoyable, please consider liking and sharing it. Additionally, subscribing to this channel will ensure that you receive more updates in the future. Thank you.